anyway, I thought I was in pretty good shape. Everything was going well until probably late 2000 or early 2008. I started having problems. One of the signs was I went into depression because I didn't feel good and because I couldn't do things like I used to. I had a lot of stuff. We had a 2,300 square foot 4-bedroom home. We had an acre lot. I had my own greenhouse, which was 36 by 24. We had our own fish pond. We did a lot of flowers, a lot of trees. And that was my hobby, our hobby. And it got so I just couldn't do it anymore. I would just run out of gas. And I knew I was really getting into I had some problems when I'd go down in the basement and I couldn't get back up the steps all the way in one shot. I'd have to stop and rest and then go up. I approached my doctor at the time, and he said, well, we'll just increase your medication. I wanted to have a stress test. And there are, by the way, a lot of doctors that don't believe in the stress test. And he didn't want to give me one. He said he wouldn't do it. So we went with the medication increase. And it just kept getting worse. So finally, I think it was early 2009, I switched from my doctor, and I was also in the Fort Healthcare organization, which does not have a cardiac thing of their own. You either go to St. Luke's or you go to Madison. So I went on the internet and found a cardiologist over here in Pro Health, at the time by the Dr. Cullinane. I walked into his office and he said, you got problems. And I said, yeah, I know, that's why I'm here. So we did the stress test, which I never finished. I never had a heart attack. And I was just getting into the process of knowing Dr. Cullinane, and he scheduled a stress test for me. But before I could have the stress test, it was in December of 2009. On the 28th, I was working in Madison. I was driving back from Madison. I made it to the old doctor's office in Jefferson. And I went in there, and they took me in the back room, put oxygen on me right away, and called the ambulance. My oxygen level had dropped down to 79. So they said that was dangerously low. I requested to come to Oconomowoc, and that started some things that just kind of turned my world upside down for a while. I was in intensive care for about 4 days, and they couldn't figure out what was. I just kept going downhill. They couldn't figure out what was wrong. They had all kinds of doctors in, and the doctor that finally found it was the CDC doctor, the what is it called?
Communicable disease.
Yes.
That one.
And he was about ready to leave, giving up, and asking me where did I get any airborne infections or anything. And to kind of make a long story short, it came from a swimming pool that had been shocked inside. So they discovered because I was on a respirator, I couldn't breathe. I had double pneumonia plus this infection, and they couldn't get it out of me. And so they finally found out what it was, and they gave me Cipro to knock it out. It was a big dose of Cipro. And it did knock it out, but it also took my kidney out. And at that time, then I found out that I had only one kidney, and the Cipro, which I don't know whatever happened to my other kidney, it's shriveled up. But I also found out that from my kidney doctor that the lack of blood in a kidney will cause it to shrivel up and just not quit working. Interesting enough, the kidney is the only organ in your body that they can't fix. You know, they can replace it, but they can't fix it. They can't do anything with it. And it's also the only organ in your body, if it feels it's not treated right, it'll quit. Just quits. So they discovered one kidney that was still working at about 40%, but the Cipro, it stopped. It didn't. It just quit working. So then they had to I went on dialysis. While I was in the hospital, I was in ICU again 8 days for that, when they discovered what was wrong with my kidney, what was causing it. Then they had to change the medication for my pneumonia. And so all the while this is all going on, Dr. Cullinane wants to do a cath to try and find out what's wrong with my heart, because they hadn't gotten to that point yet. So I ended up...
Your attention, please. Medical emergency. CAT team. Inpatient recap.
I ended up on dialysis.
104.
They came in the room and they said, well, who's your kidney doctor? Well, I didn't have a kidney doctor. I didn't know my kidneys were bad. So anyway, they started dialysis, and the only way you can do a catheterization is to use the dye. The worst enemy of your kidney is the dye. So they were trying to figure out how can they do the catheterization, because they knew I had a lot of heart problems going on, and at the same time I was on dialysis, but not to kill the kidney completely, because my kidney doctor, who was Dr. Afsall, by the way, great man, said, I think if we get you on dialysis, we'll stay on dialysis for a while, but I think I can save part of your kidney. So what they did was they put me back in the hospital again about 2 or 3 weeks later. They let me get recovered as going. I was on dialysis 3 times a week. And so what they did is they put me in the hospital. They did a dialysis in the hospital. Then they took me down to the lab, the cath lab. They did the catheterization, and then they brought me back, and they did another dialysis to take the dye, or a lot of the dye, right out of my system again. So what they discovered with the cath was we can't do anything. I had to be taken into Waukesha. They transported me into Waukesha. Dr. Schneider performed a 5 bypass on me. And his was, we know you needed 4. He said I wasn't going to take a chance on a 5th one, so I did it. So and then I was on dialysis for 6 months, and I was really kind of getting ready to give up on it. And the kidney doctor just kept saying, Wayne, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. And we did. After 6 months, I came off of dialysis. I'm only the 3rd patient that this doctor has that ever came off of dialysis. So he calls me his miracle patient, and I feel like it is a miracle doing that. So everything was really cruising along pretty good. I got off of dialysis in June. I went through the fall. The next March, all of a sudden I developed syncope. I just, boop, over I'd go. And they couldn't, of course, insurance, I can't blame them. Insurances, Medicare and all of that, unless they could capture a heart episode, will not pay. The doctor can't do it unless they capture it. So they started me with the monitors. And I wore the 48-hour monitors. I wore 2 or 3 of them. They couldn't capture it. Then I wore a monitor that was on for a week. They still couldn't capture it. And I was going down about once or twice a month. And it could be any place. And in the spring, it must have been like the end of May, I was at the Dells, we were up there for a convention, not the Dell, at
Baraboo. Oh, you ended up in Baraboo Hospital.
I ended up in Baraboo Hospital. I was sitting in a couch at the Kalahari and just tipped over. And they took me down there, they kept me overnight, which is interesting because that started another episode in my life. As I left there, the doctor said, "Do you know you have spots on your lung?" And we hadn't worried about that too much. So I come back, and the doctor there told the doctors here, they said, well, you know, he's got spots on his lungs. Well, they didn't want to worry about that because they wanted me to keep from passing out. So finally, Dr. Colonnade said, you know, the only way we're going to get it is to do an implant. So they implanted a thing, and they gave me a little remote. So whenever I felt like I was going to pass out, I got to where I could tell when it was coming on. And if I could get down on the floor, on all fours, put down my elbows, and just stay there for a few minutes, I wouldn't pass all the way out. I could kind of wait and let it go by. The last time that it happened, and it really, really made me think about it, because this was like in October already. I was at the Pick and Save on Wisconsin Avenue, and I was walking down the aisle. I could tell it was coming, and I just went down. Well, here I am in the grocery store laying down, you know, and people are coming around, what's the matter? Oh, no, I'm fine, just leave me alone, you know. So anyway, that's when Dr. Colonnade decided to implant. So he implanted, and I had the implant in, and this is not something you should do. I really got help from my doctor for doing this. But I was just so sick of living like that, that after about 2 weeks, we had a recumbent exercise bike on my solarium, and I had a cabinet right next to it. And I told my wife, I said, if I holler, you come out. I got on my exercise bike, and I just kept cranking it up until I could feel an episode coming. I did. I hit the monitor.
This speech was not pre-approved.
I hit the monitor. I called for my wife, I hit the monitor, and I went. And that was on a Saturday morning. I called the doctor on Monday morning, and I says, I got what you need. This is all, I'm serious. I got into his office, and he says, you did what?
I'll pretend you will talk to you tomorrow, I'm in a meeting.
So, he did have what he wanted, and I think within 2 weeks, I only had the implant in about a month, and so he scheduled it. We went in, and he put a dual pacemaker in me, and that was fine. So they had me corrected, and they said, okay, let's go for the spots on the lung. Let's find out what it is. And I went in for 2 of the gagging things where they go down inside of you. And the first one, they went and took pictures. They couldn't figure out what it was. So the second time they went in, they took a sample, and they came back, and they says, oh, you have cancer.
Oh, jeez.
So I have
Non-Hodgkin's.
non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in my left lung. I went to the oncologist, and he said, well, he said, it's not bad. He said, in a normal person, I probably wouldn't do anything right away. But because you only have part of a kidney, when we do the treatment, the, what's the stuff?
Radiation.
No, I didn't have radiation, I had the
Chemo.
chemo. When we do the chemo, what that does is it kills all the cancer cells, or a lot of them. But the only way they get out of your system is they go through your kidney. And if you don't have full kidney function, it can plug up your kidney and then your kidney quits. So he said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. He said, I'm going to use, we'll treat it right now. It started with an orotoxin, something like that. And I had 2 treatments that was working well. After the second treatment, about a week after the second treatment, now they said this had nothing to do with the chemo, but they give you that whole thing of, it gets your system hyper. Anyway, I had a stroke. So I came out of the stroke really well. The only thing I did lose is I lost my vision to the left. I can't see my hand. And I lost the vision down, which in turn made me really not too stable. But I'm thankful for because it could have been a lot more serious. So then at this point, I'm what they call a complex patient.
What Dr. Cooper says about you.
Dr. Cooper, well, I was doing really well with everything. The chemo, after about 4 months, kind of went into remission, and it's holding there, thank God. And so I had some really, really bad feet. They were extremely flat-footed, that my arches were about that much lower than the rest of my foot. I couldn't hardly walk. I'd walk like a duck. And I put inserts in my shoes and then cut out the place so I could walk. And with my heart and my kidney, the best thing is exercise. It's the best medicine you can do. So I wanted to have foot surgery because I couldn't walk decent. I couldn't, and walking is the best thing you can do. So I went to my foot surgeon and I said, I want to have them fixed. And he said, okay, fine, but he said, I'm going to have Dr. Cooper authorization to do it. And Dr. Cooper said, no, I can't let him do it. So Dr. Meyer, I didn't know they were friends. So Dr. Meyer called Dr. Cooper back and said, well, you want him to exercise and stuff, he's not going to be able to exercise unless he gets his feet fixed. So Dr. Cooper said, okay, fine, I'll let him do it. Well, I had to go in for the pre-op. And Dr. Cooper, I think, was trying to find every way he could just to not approve it. But he didn't quite like the EKG that they did. So he had his nurse come back in and redo it. And she was questioning him. I was sitting in the office and he was in there and she was getting ready to leave. And she turned to the doctor and she says, how come you're being so particular with this one? And he turned to her and he said, well, Wayne here looks a hell of a lot better in person than he does on paper. So things were going, really good. And well, what was it, about 2 months ago? I just had my second pacemaker put in. The first one, my heart, the signals weren't, so I got to know what an electrophysiologist is. And now I've got the latest and the greatest pacemaker from St. Jude. It's what they call a quad. It's only got 3 wires, but it's got the defib in it. It's really, well, I don't, how many here got pacemakers?
I told him next time we can bring his little sample in.
Yeah, I got a sample, but it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to sit there when they have the person from St. Jude, you know what I'm talking about. The person from St. Jude, he puts a donut around your pacemaker, and him and the doctor are sitting there and they're talking back and forth. Well, slow it down a little bit. Let's see what happens. And they're doing things with your heart that's just unbelievable. But thank God for the technology and the doctors that we got today, or I wouldn't be here. So that's my story.
Wow.
I'm surprised it's so short. I thought you were going to talk long.
He was going to, but I said,
You're like my wife on this, huh?
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah, if anybody's got any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
See your medical report.
Oh, you should see it. Yeah, it's almost 2 pages.
Just a little
Nothing
taller
else
than
to
this.
go around, right?
I'll save one.
other questions?
Well, did you have coronary artery disease? Is that what the basic problem was with your heart and why the kidney didn't get nourishment?
They think so, yeah. And I asked the doctors about it, and actually this was shortly after they discovered I only had one kidney operating at about. Now I'm not sure, and they're not sure, if I was operating with one kidney at 100% and the other one wasn't working at all. And because once they discovered it, the Cipro had knocked the other one out. So they got that one back towards operating at 40%, which is really good. I mean, you could live on 25% of one kidney. But they think, yes, they think that's the problem. But the doctor said, we don't know, let's not worry about it, because we can't do anything about it. So they didn't even attempt or, to guess what happened to it or anything. They said it could be as far back as a football injury when I was in high school. They don't know. But I was 68 years old before they found out I had one kidney.
Are you on a transplant list at all for a kidney, or did you have to be
No,
knocked out completely?
I'm not eligible. I was eligible when I was in dialysis, but at 40%, there's I function very well. There's no, I'm really on a strict diet, no salt, an exercise routine, but no, I function fine. My medications, I take 10 in the morning and 11 at night, but
Twice as good.
so thank you if nobody's got any other questions.
I want to dwell on the depression thing, because that's the hardest thing for anybody to handle. I mean, in the
It is.
fight, you'll fight everything else, but you only talked about depression at the very beginning of this, and you kept naming, I don't even know how many things you named anymore. How did you handle all that?
I think, I actually thought I was going to kiss it all goodbye when I was in the hospital with the pneumonia and the infection in my lungs. I couldn't breathe, and I don't know if anybody's been on a respirator, and you can't catch your breath, but what would happen to me is I would go into a panic. And they had to keep me sedated because as soon as you can't catch your breath, I would just start panicking. I mean, I did some weird things. I was sitting up on the top of the edge of the bed, everything to, and I think when I had the depression, and I know I did have it, and what I did for my depression is probably not the route you wanted to go, but it did help me. I went and heard one of these advertisements to where they send you the videotapes you listen to while you're sleeping, and that really helped me. It did help me. But once they found out that I did have problems, that it wasn't up here, that I felt great. I thought, okay, I always feel that I'm a type A personality. And I always feel that if it's something I can do, I'll do it. So once they started finding things wrong with me, and that they could be corrected, I mean it. And family, friends, that's all a big thing. But depression is really it's a gray ghost, I'll tell you. It sneaks up on you, and you don't want to admit you got it, but you do, and it messes with your mind so much. You just want to be withdrawn. You don't want to do anything. I used to just go out. I had a beautiful woodworking shop. I'd go out and sit in my shop and watch TV, and that was about it. Yeah. Anybody else?
Your exercise program, are you monitored for that, or can you do that on your own?
No, I can do it on my own. I have been, when I lived in Rome, I had a solarium, and I had 6 pieces of exercise equipment. I had my own little gym set up there. I've always liked exercising. Now, thanks to 3 Pillars, they got just a magnificent, I don't know if you want to call it a gym, but It's fantastic. And so my regimen right now is I do water aerobics on Monday and Friday. On Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, I do the gym. And then on Wednesdays right now is open because the program I was in is called Strength and Agility. They're not doing right now. But so then on Wednesdays, I try to do extra walking or something like that. One good thing that for depression, for exercise, for whatever, is a dog. I gotta take my dog out 4 times a day. We take out, I walk him, we play ball at noon, and then we get between a half and 3/4 mile in the morning when we walk, you know, when I take him out. But that's my regimen, and I keep that up. But they do, but because I'm the type of person I am, I track everything, I track my weight and everything. They've even got me released now to where I can change the dose of my medication depending on my weight and stuff. I have to weigh myself every morning, and I have limits that I can gain and, you know, can't. So I'm trying to. At one time, you can believe it or not, I weighed 215 pounds. This was way prior to my problems, but I was running about 185. I went in the hospital at 185. I was in for 3 months straight, January, February, and March. I was in the hospital for 8 days each month in ICU, and in that time period, I lost 40 pounds. So, but it's just, you know, one thing you got to do is be your own advocate. That is just something you really got to do, because the doctors don't know. I mean, you can have all kinds of problems, and you can have all kinds of things that are bothering you in that. And when you go in, it's the medical system the way it is, but when you go in and you get your 10 minutes with the doctor, and he starts asking you questions, you forget about what you want to ask him. Or if he does something that you think isn't right, that you don't agree with, you really got to just do it. You got to say, okay, wait a minute, I don't want to do that. I want to put a plug in for Pro Health. One thing that helps me the greatest is that, and if you don't have one, you should ask for one. I got what they call health, or what's Lenny? Huh?
Health coach.
Health coach. She regulates all the different doctors. I have 5 doctors right now. I got my GP, my kidney doctor, my cardiologist, and my electrophysiologist. And they
You're
all,
not a gynecologist.
and my,
Yeah,
I knew
there
there
you
was
go.
5.
That one, that's the 5th one, yeah.
I know there was
He wants to get
5.
straight, he can't even.
But when one gives me a medication, that has to be approved, and all the other ones know that my medication regimen is being changed. And so she does that. She takes care of that. Or if she thinks one doctor's giving me something that maybe the other doctors aren't going to agree with, she's an RN, and she's right at Dr. Cooper's office, and I can call her anytime, anytime. And if I get a cold or something, I'm on an instant in. I don't go through the normal procedures. I call her and I'm in. So.
Did you have your foot surgery?
Yes, I had both feet operated on.
I was wondering about that.
No, that's the only reason I can walk now. I can really. Some days I walk. Well, the gym at where I live is a half mile from home, from our place, from our door to there is a half mile. So I walk over to the gym, do my routine, which is about 40 minutes, and then walk back home. And that's my exercise routine.
This health coach.
Oh, okay. It doesn't cost a thing. It's something that's put on by Pro Health. They pay for it. Your health coach is assigned. She is assigned between 60 and 70 patients. That's what she does full time. She is assigned here. They have one here at Economowoc. They have one in Heartland, and they have one in Watertown. That's paid for by Pro Health. And here's the reason why. The reason that they have, it's a great thing for us that use it, but with the, I just want to call it Obamacare, and that's being political, but that's what it is. Hospitals are now paid on return instances, okay? So if I go into the hospital with heart problems, if they do a bypass or if they do whatever, okay, the insurance company will pay them a certain percentage. Now, if I come back, and it depends on the time, but if I come back for that same condition, they get paid less. Every time I come back for that same condition, they get paid less and they get paid less. So it behooves the hospital to say, okay, we don't want Wayne back there as a heart patient, so we're going to do everything we can to keep him heart healthy and out of here as far as his heart's concerned. So that's the financial reason for the health coaches. That's how ProHealth pays for them, is by trying to keep that percentage that they get paid on non-return incidences for the same situation. So, but it's a fantastic thing. And you can request a health coach. And then they will do an evaluation and see if that's something that required. But her main job for me is to coordinate between all the doctors.
Did they recommend her to you, or did you ask for her?
She was assigned to me.
So I'm wondering, did they assign it if you have more than one condition, or?
That's why I was assigned.
After you're on your treadmill, or your helmet bike at home.
We gotta watch this guy.
But that's why I was assigned. I only have one. I think only one doctor that's not in the pro healthcare system, and that's my kidney doctor. The rest of them are all in, but it's still, the doctors aren't that. I mean, if you knew, or you maybe do, what a doctor's life is like, it's just boom, 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 and they don't have time to track and follow everything, you know. So that's her job, is to make sure that they call me once a month. She does. If I don't come in and see her, she calls me once a month, checks medication, see how I'm doing, see if everything is going well, and if there's any changes in the meds or whatever, and make sure you're taking your meds, things like that. Hey, thank you a lot.
Has anybody ever heard of that case management nurse like that? I've heard of it, but never around here. I was surprised that we had it around here.
No,
Would
usually